Okay.
Subject.
We're live. Okay, so now I just need to find where I am.
It says live 11 seconds.
Oh, here we are. Here we are. And then of course, I turn it down some. We are live. I know. Take a breath because this one gonna be. Y'all ready for the ride? So we'll wait. Come on in. We have a viewer. We're gonna wait for more viewers. We have a topic to discuss, but it's much needed because I think that
We should
people
talk about this every quarter.
we should. I was thinking about how um, when is domestic violence awareness, and I thought,
It's
oh well, it's
October.
October. Well, nobody waiting October. People
I
suffering
know,
today.
because that's when you do pink and I do purple.
Yes, but I'm like, people are suffering today though, so we need
Oh,
to get
yeah,
right
really
every
bad
quarter
because of the pandemic. Yeah, it's
because
been
of the
really.
pandemic. And I wasn't able to pull up an 800 number. I probably will before we get off of
I
here.
think I
So
may have one on my
good.
notes.
Yeah,
I
good.
do. I have it. I have it. I have it on my
Oh, I
notes.
got them notes.
Yeah.
That's the notes I got. But I wrote stuff out too. So are we gonna let people come in the room? Please like, share, love, text your loved ones, your friends, and tell them to get on because we have
Get
a
on, get a piece of paper and a piece of
yes,
paper and something to write with, because this
yes,
is going to be a little bit interactive today.
yes.
Going
Yep.
to
Please
kind of,
grab your
yeah.
yeah. So let me see who I got in here. If it's showing up,
Oh,
it's not
that's what I
showing
can
up.
pull mine's up too. I forget.
Yeah, I'm trying to see who we got in here so far. I mean, we got people in here, but it's not showing me who it is. If you are on, please go ahead and send us a wave and say hi so we know that you're there. Please like and share. Take these off. Please like and share. This is going to be phenomenal. This is going to be confirmation, informational. Hi, Carmelita. Thank you for jumping on with us. We appreciate you. You look like you're the first one. If you're not the first one,
Well,
you're the
this is
first
going
one
to
that
be
I've been able to see.
informational.
Yeah. Y'all know we get deep sometimes. So just grab your paper and get ready for the ride because we get deep sometime. I invited a lot of people. I'll go on and let me send out some text messages saying, "Hey, I'm on. We're on." This is something that you want to make sure that you jump into, and that you
Mm-hmm.
see. It's going to be interactive, but you know how we do. If we got 20 people, we got two. We're gonna rock this.
It's
We're
the
gonna rock
same
this wheel.
message.
We're gonna
Yeah.
rock this until the wheels come off. So whether we got a couple or not, we're gonna rock it till the wheels come off. Um, and I'm not going to do my text because I am live. And so I've sent out messages. Listen, tell your people to get on. Get on now. We are talking about domestic violence. Domestic violence has increased tremendously since the pandemic. Unfortunately, it's all unfortunate, but it's really unfortunate for it to increase during this time. Kids are suffering, families are suffering, right? So the abuse rate, whether it's domestic, well, domestic violence is against anyone in the household. So whether it's children, whether it's a partner, and everybody is suffering. Work and school was safe havens for people because they didn't have to be in the house with the abusers, and so now they are trapped in the house with the abusers. And so we're going to be talking about that. So welcome to Heads Up Mental Clarity. I am Michelle Bird, your mental health therapist, and this is my lovely friend and co-host, Stephanie McCain.
Hello, 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 hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we are excited to be discussing this topic. So I want to start off
Definitely.
by saying, just giving you a little bit. So domestic violence is more common than most people believe. It affects men as well as women. It is on the rise during this pandemic. It crosses all race and class lines. Nobody's exempt from it. And substance and alcohol abuse does not cause domestic violence, but certainly increases
Yes.
the level of violence, right? So you might hear like, oh, because he was drinking or she was drinking or whatever. No, it increases the level of violence because it drops the inhibition of those that might violate. And so it increases that. And so I wanted to just kind of introduce you. And so Stephanie and I are going to be talking about facts, statistics, what to look for, how to help someone else, and how to help yourselves, certainly. So let's get started.
Yay. I'm super excited. I want to make sure my door was closed. I don't want to be disturbing the whole house. But I'm super excited about this subject. I am a survivor of domestic violence. So anybody else that is here that is a survivor of domestic violence, hey, 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 hey. And Of course, I'm getting a phone call. Um, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, so this is a very a subject that is dear to my heart. Um, and I also have been a domestic violence advocate and shelter coordinator and small group leader. Um, Women that are surviving domestic violence, abortion recovery, rape recovery. So I've had my hands in this level of trauma for a very long time in the super double digits. So this subject is super, I mean, like really dear to my heart. And so yeah, I'm grateful to be able to share all of this with you. And I my prayer today was that the women and men and families who needed to be in this room today or tomorrow or whenever somebody clicks on this would come across this broadcast, and that we would just be a blessing to them, because mental health is serious business. You hear Michelle and I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
And we understand the stigma that is in our community, which I am so over that. But this will be probably my last time saying that. Like, I'm no longer going to bring that to the universe either, because we got to do something different, and we
Right.
can do something different. But domestic violence and inter partner abuse, child abuse, all of that stuff, it's a real deal. And I don't even know, it's like a isn't it like a V code in the
Yeah.
DSM? It's
Yes.
not a diagnosis. So
Right.
it's something that happens because of something else in
Hmm.
in what we do. So I don't even know if we can even charge it as a domestic. We got to
Right.
charge anxiety first, right?
Exactly.
Anxiety or
Yes.
depression before we can even address the fact that someone is being um violated sexually,
Oh my gosh. You're going to
physically.
talk about the different types. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So this is an awesome subject for me, and I'm not going to get on my soapbox because I don't want to take over. I want to share some statistics with you guys. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to ask everybody to get a piece of paper and pencil, because we're going to take a quiz and see what we know about domestic violence. Um,
Come on.
when I do workshops, I always start the workshops with these domestic violence quiz, and it's called a dating quiz or a relationship quiz. And so, um, we'll probably bring the questions in and out as we speak. But I'm going to do the first six. Is that okay, Michelle? To do
Yes.
the
Go
first
ahead. Yes.
question.
Absolutely.
Okay, so these are true or false questions. The first one is: dating violence is rare among high school students, college students, and other educated people. True or
Mm.
false? When someone leaves an abusive relationship, the abuse usually ends. True or false? Drug and alcohol, which Michelle, you already gave them one. That's a free one. Drug and alcohol abuse is often a factor in dating or marriage domestic violence incidents. True or false? And the best way to get a friend to leave an abusive relationship is to cut ties with them. True or false, right? If violence
Wow.
occurs once, the relationship uh, if the violence occurs once in a relationship, it is likely to happen again. True or false? If violence occurs, oh, I said that already, and police hardly ever make arrests in dating violence or domestic violence situations.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, really great questions, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, number one is false. Dating and domestic violence is common among all people, rich, poor, black, white, Asian, or Latino.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is false. Unfortunately, a time when a victim is most at risk is when leaving a relationship. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Like a person is really at risk the most when they are leaving a domestic violence relationship.
Yes.
That is when they can lose their lives. They can lose all of their access to finances.
Yes.
Leaving a domestic violence relationship will it does increase a person's um a possibility of being killed or hurt the worst is when someone is leaving a relationship that is abusively toxic. Number three, drugs or alcohol abuse is often a factor. Although drugs and alcohol is often a factor in domestic violence, it is not the cause
Exactly.
or an excuse.
Exactly.
Both the victim and the perpetrator of violence are much more likely to use drugs and alcohol than people who are not in abusive relationships.
Yes.
So, we hear all the time, oh, he was drunk or he was high. And, we minimize it as if he were not drunk or high, that they would not be having that experience.
Yes.
Know that that is
We
not
know
true.
that, right. We know that that is not true. And
That's
I
not
think
true.
sometimes people use that to make themselves feel better about, or, because you got an excuse, and, you're not
Mhm.
ready to go, or you don't know how to leave yet.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, well, he was drunk or she was drunk or high. Yeah.
Yeah, or people will even say, "Well, what is wrong with him? Like Stephanie, is he like bipolar? Like they need they need a diagnosis or something in
They
order
need a
to be like
reason. Yeah.
to stay or like, okay, well, if he's bipolar, then I'm gonna go home and try to fix him and get him to go to therapy or she, because I don't want to be biased on here, because we're gonna share some statistics that blew my mind too about both
Yes.
sexes, right? I'm like, oh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah. So number four is true. This may actually have a opposite effect. Someone who is being abused in a relationship needs outside help and support and is very unlikely to leave that relationship without the support and help of families. So it's like, don't cut ties with your friend because you know that they're in a toxic or especially abusive relationship. That's like the
Right.
worst time to leave them because
Right.
that's what the abuser or batterer would like. The intention of the
Isolation.
batterer is to isolate. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
isolation. So you don't want that to happen.
And
Um
oftentimes we know that when people don't understand something, they judge it. And then when they
mhm.
judge it, I just want people to understand that it's not about you. If
Mhm.
it's someone else who's in that relationship. So for instance, like, what's wrong with her? Why won't she go? Why is she dealing with this? Okay, I've already given my advice, so I'm done with the relationship. Please don't do that.
Mhm.
If you're not in
Mhm.
it, you've not ever been in it, you don't understand it. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the so no, don't leave your friend that's in trouble. Like
That's
don't.
right.
That ain't a friend in my humble opinion. Whatever.
Yes.
And um if so number five is true. If violence occurs once in a relationship, it is likely to happen again. It is rare for someone to hit or otherwise abuse a partner once and never do it again. Should I repeat that? I think
Yes.
I will.
Yes.
It is rare for someone to hit or otherwise abuse a partner once and never do it again. Because that's in you.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about too, like what those things look like, because I think we minimize and justify certain things. So we're
Yeah.
going to get into the types of that's domestic violence, and what that looks like as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, And then the last one is false. This once was the case when the victim had to agree to press charges before the police would arrest. I feel I feel a little I have some kind of way, but I'm not gonna get on my political soapbox about that. So if you call the police and they arrest you, and now your hands are tied to drop the charges. So now it has rendered women powerless to change their mind. It has disempowered us and whoever,
Mm-hmm.
men too. But sorry, my call on this planet is for women. So it is caused them to be disempowered, because if they decide to change their mind, which I don't want them to change their mind either, but the statistics show that a woman has to
Right.
leave. It might be different, but a woman has to leave a domestic violence situation at minimum of 7 times before she is
Or
completely done. So now she's going to be less likely to contact the police if she knows that she doesn't have the freedom to drop the charges. And then the state picks it up, and it's just a mess. So I have mixed feelings about that aspect. That wasn't going on back in the 80s, but now it's like if you call, now this person has to be diligent about, if you want the relationship to work now. So I just think that it's really, it's to me is again um disempowering women and
right.
men too, but
The
because
person
once
that's
they,
being violated. Yes.
right. Yeah. And so now they got to choose between, do I want him to be in jail for the rest of his life? And then you got Illinois. I pulled up Illinois' records too. Then you got Illinois, you got the three strike stuff going on. So
Yes.
you call, you can't drop the charges. And now if he got two records, now he goes to jail for pushing you. And not that he's wrong, not that it's wrong, but he goes to jail for life.
Yeah.
He goes
So
to jail.
it puts you twixt in between. What should I do?
Yeah, yeah. So then it becomes not about survival and right and wrong. It's about politics,
Right. Exactly.
So yeah. So anyway, I'm not gonna get on that, but
And with
uh,
guys, I just want to speak a little bit about like with the guys, it's kind of like a joke
hmm
because you're supposed to be the more powerful one in the relationship. How do you let that happen? And so guess what? It's not reported, nothing's called because there's shame and judgment about that.
shame and judgment. And there are groups for batterers that they could go to. Some work, some don't, but at least give them an opportunity. But when they take away that opportunity and be like, you arrested, it's a misdemeanor, and a second misdemeanor, now it's a felony, nobody learns anything. I'm all about the rehab portion of this journey, as opposed to just let's throw them in the sardine can and hope in 10 years they learn something from what other inmates. But
Right.
anyway, um, this once was, so this is about the police thing. This once was the case when victims had to agree to press charges before the police would make an arrest. However, it is now mandatory in our state to make an arrest if there is any physical evidence of abuse, even if the victim does not press charges.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
It's crazy. I got a client
Yeah.
who just
Hmm.
took the girl's car. He didn't even touch her.
Yeah. And then you have, unfortunately, then you have falsified reports. Because really and truly, all you got to do is go say it happened,
That's
fabricate
it.
on the papers that you fill out because you're pissed at someone or whatever, and that's it. They're
Now the
picked up.
onus is on the accused to prove that it didn't happen.
And I've seen
Really?
that part several
I
times.
have too. I have too.
Just
I have
because you're
too.
pissed, you
Yeah.
can mess up someone's life. So
Because
that's
domestic violence is all about power and control.
yes,
So,
yes,
yeah, I get to have some control now.
absolutely. So some other statistics are very alarming. Every 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner violence, physical violence, intimate partner sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking with impacts as injury, fearfulness, PTSD, among other things that they experience. And so I say these statistics, but because I want people to understand that it's not just women. We're talking about women, but understand that we're talking about everyone that may find anyone that may find themselves in this position.
So when I used to do a presentation at USI, whatever that university is by your house, and at the church that I belong to, which is a mega church, I would
UIC.
have
Hmm.
UIC, yeah, every fourth person to stand up in a mega church. So let's say we got 1,000 people in the audience. Every fourth person, one, two, three, four, you stand up. One, two, three, four, you stand up. One, two, three, four, you stand up. So if you can envision every fourth person with 1,000 people in the audience, that's how many people every 9 seconds
Yep.
is being impacted by domestic violence.
Yes. And talking about it being on the rise in the pandemic, what we
Oh.
used to see is around holidays,
Mm-hmm.
right? Any time that there's time off work, it would increase amongst and not by no means am I saying all people in these professions do this. I'm just telling you the statistics is that it is more likely when someone works in of service, like in the police department or the fire department, a very high stress job. You will
Mm-hmm.
find that, but
Doctors, lawyers,
yes,
nurses. Mm-hmm.
but normally we will see the rise go up and down like around the holidays, right? Because that's when people are kind of like locked in together for the most part. But now we had a whole year of a pandemic and we're still in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really been on the rise. 1 in 3 women, I mean, and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. 1 in 7 women and 1 in 25 men have been injured by an intimate partner. 1 in 10 women have been raped by an intimate partner, and unfortunately, data was unavailable on male victims of the rape. And this is according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Okay, so this is where we're getting these numbers from. So so more people, as we said in the beginning, than you believe or think are suffering from this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Stalking and homicide. What I found interesting in my research is that a lot of women who suffer from a lot, there's a lot of homicide in the workplace for
Yeah.
women.
Yes.
I was like, wow. I mean, it kind of makes sense if I just think about my own story, but I was like, that's a statistic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um,
Homicide at work. I was just like, wow. Okay.
yeah. Um, so there are 4 types of domestic violence. So when we talk about the physical violence, understand that we're talking about a shove. If somebody will put their hands on you, as Stephanie said, once, they'll put their hands on you again. So shoving, slapping, punching, pushing, all of those things, because a lot of times people kind of minimize it.
And
Now,
financial abuse.
say that again. I didn't hear you. And
Financial.
financial abuse. Yes. Um, and so I think the financial might fall under the psychological, where there's verbal, emotional, there's threats, intimidation, financial, withholding of finances, stalking, swearing at, or, isolating, or just being insulting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tearing the other person down, which is part of that can be part of the leading up to the physical, because that's
Right.
kind of
Yeah,
like a
that's the
grooming
cycle.
process.
The honeymoon, the tension
Yeah.
building, the actual damages, and then back to the honeymoon phase. So in the tension building phase is when you don't do enough, you're not good enough, something is always wrong, or women who aren't aware, or people who aren't aware. I'm gonna stop saying women. he or she is in a mood, or they're
Mhm.
irritated, or
Mhm.
the eggshell phase is what we call that. Tension building
Right.
phase is the same as the eggshell phase. And you find yourself in an environment where you're walking around on eggshells, you may consider that you are in some form of domestic violence partnership
Right.
connection. Like,
Yeah.
if you walk around on eggshells, you can't be your 100.
Right. And let's be clear, as we're saying, there's different types, and I want us to be able to identify different types of abuse, because that is a form of toxicity. So you have the psychological and the emotional. It's abuse. I don't care who's doing it.
Right.
It doesn't have to be, because we see a lot of, and that's kind of what's in the forefront, women abused by men, but there's also men abused by women. There's also children abused by whomever's in the household. There's Domestic violence can be anybody in that household, right?
Hmm.
So a child can be abusive to a parent.
Yes.
A sibling can be abusive to another sibling. And so I want you to keep that in mind, because we're not just talking about men abusing women. Like we're talking about all types of abuse. So when you think about the physical violence and the domestic violence in the household, where there is a man and a woman, if there's children, they're being abused too. Or a man or a woman abusing a man, there's children too. Let's say nobody puts their hands on anybody, but then there's that psychological abuse, right? Then there's sexual abuse, and that is forced sex, forced, unwanted, unwelcome sexual acts, period. So just because you're in a partnership doesn't give you the right to force anyone to do anything with you,
No means no.
period. Someone being raped in a relationship, I wanted to just be willing to bet is that the statistics are higher than someone being um, sexually assaulted by a stranger. We already know that it happens within families and things like that, but definitely in those relationships. College students, it is so very prevalent with college students on the
Such
college
a sad
campus.
reality.
It is. Yes. There's also attacks against property and pets. That's abusive as well. So the
And that
person,
usually comes in the it comes in the eggshell phase, or the tiptoe around phase, that tension phase.
mhm,
And then it'll come also, at the end too, like if, yeah, if you decide to take your own power back, you'll have that
mhm.
experience as well, with your property and animals being killed. And um
And
yeah.
all of it is a form of intimidation
Yes.
to get that. Let's be clear that the person that is the perpetrator of domestic violence feels powerless.
Yes. Can you just say that, like, again? We should have a little, like, a neon thing, like,
We need to have a little, yes. The person, the perpetrator of domestic violence needs to gain control. They feel powerless. And that's how you get your power. You get someone, even if the person, like I said, if the person's not putting their hands on you, but they do a lot of yelling and screaming, and it's abuse. I know every time we get on here, we start talking about parents because we love children. But I just want to say, parents,
we
if
love
you
our baby.
screaming, yelling at the top of your lungs, it becomes abusive.
It
Because
is
first
abusive.
of all, it is abusive. First of all, if you're yelling, you feel powerless.
That's the only reason.
That's why you're raising your voice. I will never, I don't know if I've ever shared this story before, but here we go. I have a friend who can be in the front room and her children are all the way in the back room, and she speaks at normal level and they hear her. And I'm thinking, girl, they can't hear you. She said, oh, they hear me. They know my voice. She said, girl, I don't yell. It's not necessary. Now, at the time, let me just say, I was a yeller. But you start to, it's you feeling you're emotional, you feel powerless. I promise you, we don't speak on things that we don't know about for sure. That Stephanie
Mhm.
and I speak on things that we know about for sure. You feel powerless. You might be aggravated. You might be tired. It might seem like it takes less energy, but that's not true.
And
And
I
so when
think
you start,
sometimes it's just habitual because
yes,
I'm 50 plus right now, and I would be in the basement. My mom would be yelling, Stephanie, as if I'm back at home. Stephanie. And I just politely get up wherever I'm at and walk to where she is. And I'm like, yes, ma'am.
yeah,
I'm
it
not
becomes
going to engage in that. But that's what I grew up with. And so
yeah,
consequently, when that happens, you become anxious. What?
yes.
Because what does that say to the
Especially if you
brain?
yelled that in your sleep to get up. Can you
Anyway, we're
imagine?
not going to go there.
Right.
We're
Okay.
not. We're
But
not going to go there.
it does become abusive
But
when you're
it's
yelling.
true because then you start to have these palpitations in your heart. You feel like something went wrong. And then
Because
when
the
you get
brain is on alert.
the brain is on alert. Then you get a boss who says, hey, can you step into my office?
Oh my God. What did I do now?
Here we
True
go.
story. I had a friend a colleague who said to me, "Hey, when you get," and she was a supervisor at the job, and she said, "Hey, when you get done doing what you're doing, I need to talk to you." I'm like, "Oh, God, what did I do?" That was the first thing, and I went into the office, and she goes, "Why are you looking like that?" I was like, "What happened?" She's like, "Nothing. You are phenomenal, and I was wondering if you ever thought about private practice." That's what she wanted with me.
I know. I know.
And so, and not just the calling of the person's name because you want something, but yelling anything that you want from them.
Yelling.
Even if the child is misbehaving and you need them to sit down, go sit down somewhere. That's so ugly.
It's abuse.
It is abuse. And
Because
immediately,
when you understand what you're doing to another human being's nervous system,
yes, that's what I was going to say. Yes, absolutely.
it is impacting the nervous system.
Yeah.
And when you understand that it's impacting the nervous system and it creates confusion, you're trying to have someone to follow a directive, and yet you are sending off alarms in the brain that says, what are we doing? 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 And can
Protect
you
yourself. Protect
imagine? You
yourself.
have parents who do that at 24 months. You have parents that do that at 18 months. And so by the
Mhm.
time a child becomes 5 and in kindergarten, we want them to sit still. We want them to be attentive.
And their brain,
And they
we've
are
already
nervous
stimulated
wreck.
that brain.
They,
Already
yeah,
stimulated. We've already stimulated that brain to be on alert.
to be on alert.
Yeah,
That is and that is what sets the us and the thems apart
yeah,
because
yeah.
they're being groomed for an analytical setting. Not everybody. So I'm not
Right.
saying that, but those who aren't being yelled and being jarred,
Hmm.
even if you and your partner are having domestic violence challenges and you think your baby is asleep, what's the
Yeah,
old folks say? All closed eyes ain't shut, all shut eyes ain't sleep.
not sleeping. So if you don't get anything from this, all we're saying is that you might think that because you don't put your hands on someone that you're not being abusive, and that's not
Mhm.
true. That's not true. So let's just be mindful of that. Um, because children suffer from abuse as well. And we are aware a lot of first responders, a lot of emergency workers and social workers and things like that are very aware that children are going through way more
Yeah.
abuse now than they were before because they don't have school. They don't have 7 hours of school to be away from it. They cannot escape it. And if they're not being abused and they're in school, they don't get to see the abuse, well, now they're at home, so they're seeing the abuse of anybody else in the household.
The yelling, the screaming,
Yes.
kids are like, I don't know what to do.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I want to say this, it wasn't on our things to do, but I just want to share with parents who may have children who have seen domestic violence or seen violence or dealt with anger or whatever, extreme anger in the home, because it's okay to be angry and that's an emotion. So I don't want to minimize that. But like look for stomach problems, look
Yes.
for shoulder problems. Look for headaches that happen to little children. They talk about their tummy aching, their shoulders, like their back hurt, their shoulder hurts, headaches. The vision will become blurry. True story. So I was in a domestic violence relationship. I was married 8 years, but I think he and I lived together maybe 3. We never lived together for 12 consecutive months, but I was the one who needed to have an experience 7 times before I decided this is probably not a good idea. So my
This is a perfect time to share your story. Absolutely.
yeah, so my son and I went to the eye doctor, and we both had to wear glasses while I was in that relationship. When I got out of that relationship, my son Nor I'm wearing glasses now because I'm 50 plus. But my son Nora, he does not wear glasses right now. But when we were
Right.
in that connection, we both were wearing glasses. So that is
So
when
the
I say check your
psychological has
kids,
an effect on the
yes.
physical.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it has it created such an impact on my biology on so many levels that I cannot emphasize that. So teachers, social worker, whoever's watching, when you know notice children with certain ailments like stomach problems, that is so when
Mhm.
that's the number one key sign when a child is in a household where there is a lot of domestic violence, arguing, that child feels powerless, the gut is just doing extra work, the acids are just like and constipation, sorry,
Mhm.
but constipation, stomach issues, shoulder issues, head issues, and eyes issues are like one of those signs for you to pay attention, like, wow, what's going on with my kid, like,
Yes.
just ask questions to inquire about yeah,
Yeah. And
it's super
the
important.
other thing that is like not a part of, but is a part of this, is like kind of bullying falls into that. That
It is
violence.
bullying.
Well, I mean, like them being bullied even outside of the household.
Yeah, it
Because you will
makes
get a
sense.
kid to say, "I don't want to go to school," or "My head hurt," or
Hmm.
"I'm sick, I don't
Hmm.
feel good," and you think they just don't like school, and they're trying to avoid their abuser.
Yes.
They're trying to
Mhm.
avoid their abuser. And so we need to be mindful and pay attention to that. So I just threw that in because I don't want us to leave our children either, because they're being they're suffering from a domestic violence as well.
Well,
You
in my humble opinion, I feel like people who get in those type of relationships get in them because they started with those in their family of origin. That's
Yes.
my narrative. You start with that in your family of origin, and so then we're always trying to fix the past. So then you just get in that connection. So
Yes.
yeah, it makes sense that they would be attached to bullies. It makes sense that someone who come from a household where life was unbalanced and um just domestic violence was present, that they would either be in a power and control dynamics because
Mhm.
it just
Yeah.
makes sense. They saw power and control dynamics happening. Our
Yes.
children are way smarter than we are between the ages of
Yes.
0 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are aware of patterns, pathology. They know how to stay clear. They know how to keep themselves safe. But what happens is biologically their bodies are like, this ain't supposed to be happening.
Yes. And so when Stephanie says that someone coming from that, of course, will find themselves in that, let's remember now that it's not just physical, it's verbal, it's psychological, financial, sexual. Like, so just understand that there's more than just physical violence that
Yes,
constitutes domestic violence.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
So go
go ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
I wanted to speak to some of the myths. Another myth that
Girl, that's why we girlfriends. Because I was getting ready to go right there. Getting ready to go right
so
there to the
I
myths.
just wanted to, because I wanted to talk about my own little bit of my own stuff, and that
Hmm.
is that yes, a person can be in a domestic violence relationship and still love their partner. And when you understand that, you become a better support person.
Yes.
So then you are mindful of how you talk to them about their person,
Yes.
because that person still loves that person. And then if you couple religion, which was my story, with it, I had a mandate to love my partner, and
And
then
not leave.
and not leave. And then you have, the drugs and the alcohol. And so now they tell you, the abuser tell you, you're supposed to be with me through sickness and in health. Really? This is a
Right.
sickness.
Right.
Whatever.
Yes.
So I just say that for those who are supporting someone who is having these challenges, to understand that that person still loves them. And one of the things that I used to say in shelter services with the clients is, I know, I used to say that at first. I know you love him. I know you love him. I know you love him, because people need permission to
Yeah.
love the scoundrel. Like, yeah, somebody gets it. I do love him. Why? I don't know. You'll learn that in support group. But they
But the
do,
fact
and
still remains that they do. So
they
let me
do.
ask you this though, Stephanie, because of course this it's not my expertise. Let me ask you this: Do would you say that even the abuser loves, just doesn't know how, but they
Yeah,
do love their
yeah.
victim?
So me and my abuser are like best friends right now. So we've had opportunities to talk about it. And one of the things that was his story. So I'm not saying this is everybody's story, because some
Right.
people are just mean. Is that there's this major insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
It was insecurity, like, yeah, you gonna leave me, you smarter than me, da 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 da, you can't possibly love me. And then they do things like abuse, rape, and drugs. And now you really, what the heck is wrong with you, that you even want to be bothered with me,
Right.
because I
Right.
have perpetuated all this stuff upon you, and yet you're still here. And so
Yeah.
then that just makes it even harder and more confusing. So
Yeah.
yes, sometimes the abuser can love, but honey, as Tina Turner said, what love
What
got
does
to do
love
with
got to
it?
do with it?
Nothing.
Yes. But
Nothing.
I just want, because those who have not been in that situation, um, and does not understand it, they're, it's like, oh, well, if somebody put their hands on you, they can't love you. I think they love you in the way that they know how. But
Hold up.
again, okay.
I don't know how many people been spanked by their parents.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna say that. What does it say in Psalm Selah?
Yes.
Just rest and think about that. We've
Ashe.
been spanked by we've been spanked by our parents, and they love us,
That's a
right?
good point. And then people um, go into relationship with that thought, like, my parents love me, and so and maybe they do love you, right? But you can't stay in a situation that causes you harm if the other person doesn't want to do anything to get better.
Right. But I'm just saying that
Yes.
you create the environment from your family of origin. So
Yes.
if my family of origin, love represented some type of physical abuse,
Yes. Then
then
that's
I
what
got
I
to
think
tell
love
my
is.
brain a different. I got to tell my brain that does not compute.
Yes.
But
Yes. Yeah.
so
um so a myth that I saw in my research is that battered women can just leave. And there's a combination, and I want you guys to be clear that I am speaking from research, and Stephanie is speaking from experience and research, right? So she has a little bit more knowledge than I have on this. So there's a combination of factors that make it difficult to leave. And this is where the finances come in at: family, and social pressures. Because if the family likes the person, they're trying to understand what your problem is,
right,
because they
right, you
like
taking
that
good
person.
care of you. Hmm.
Yes, but you got a home, but you have and then all that is their anxiety about your future. Shame,
Shame.
because a lot of people, I don't want to say most, a lot of people will not even speak on it while they're going through it.
Right.
Um, I had a friend who was going through, I had no idea. We were friends for years. I had no idea that that was happening. But now when I look back, I know that was happening because there was a lot of verbal abuse that I did know about. And when I couldn't get in touch with this friend, I visited her mom and I said, "Hey, I can't reach her. Like, that's not like her." And her sister said she moved. And I said, "Moved?" And then I said, just something in my knowing. I said,
Mhm.
was she being physically abused? And she would not speak. She just shook her head.
Mhm.
I said, "Say no more. When you talk to her, tell her I love her." And I went on, but people keep it hidden. They don't say anything because of the shame. I had a client to say to me, "But I'm smart and I'm intelligent and I'm this and I'm that. Like, how did I find myself in this situation? How did I let this happen?" So the shame and never spoke on it until she got and never spoke on it and never got any help until she got out of the relationship. So that shame and judgment that they feel from themselves and other people will
There's
keep them
this I should know better.
yeah,
And but what also plays the role in the shame is that I still love him. What is wrong with me?
yeah,
Because you
yeah.
love the joker that you fell in love with.
You
That
loved
was
the
intentional.
you loved the who he presented himself to be,
The representative.
the
Hmm.
representative. Then there's
Yeah.
financial barriers. Sometimes people cannot. They need that
Hmm.
other income. It's they can't. And I don't want to venture to say that they can, but if you don't think you can, if you don't see
You
how you
can't.
can,
Yeah.
then you can't. Then you can't. And then their children, I have children. What do I do with my children? I don't want. And I hear this a lot with just relationships that are dysfunctional, period, whether there's abuse or not. I'm staying for my kids. Don't you know your kids know it's dysfunction? Don't you know your kids know that this is not healthy? I have
Hmm.
had people to decide to leave relationships and their kids are teenagers or older and they say, "Well, what do you think about this?" And the kid is like, "I'm trying to figure out what took you so
Why
long."
you took you so long? Yeah.
Because I've been known that this was going on and we think we hiding something, right? And that's anything, but we're talking about the abuse now. And then there's, as you alluded to earlier, the religious belief. And I did have a friend in my late 20s who was being abused all the time. I felt powerless because I didn't know how to help her. Um, but the religious belief said in our minds that you need to stay.
So I
We
wrote
need
this
to-
up. I'm gonna read it because it's hard for me
Okay.
to even talk about. And I've been doing some writing about my journey, and this is so perfect. So
Can't
I
wait
wrote
for that
this.
to come out.
Yeah, I'm coming out the closet. Um, so it's funny that you should say this. So it says, I was told, yes, I was told by my pastor to go home and keep my mouth shut and pray that he is not going to kill you. That was the exact quote from my pastor.
Wow.
This is after my estranged husband. We weren't together. We were separated because of domestic violence. Had come to the church and gave the usher a note and stating that it was an emergency. I left out of the church and went and got into the car thinking something had happened to my parents. He drives off from the church with me in the car with my sons still in church, in youth church. My baby was like maybe two. No, he might not even been two. And Stefan was probably, sorry for saying his name on TV. I'm sorry, Steph. My oldest boy was, I want to say maybe five. I don't know, but they were in church, the youth
Right.
part, the big nursery. Um, and then my ex-husband, he took me to my house, tortured me. I won't go into the graphics of that. For what seemed like hours, but was only for 30 or 40 minutes. So when he dropped me back off at the church, I went to my pastor to tell him about what had just happened to me. And I was told, go home, shut my mouth, and pray for him. He is not going to kill you.
Wow. Wow.
And like a good saint, that's what I did. But my father, thank God, came over with his friends and like rewired my whole telephone system because he had cut the phone cords, and I couldn't get no help. And I had called my parents from the church. My dad came over, and we had his friend from Ohio Bell. That's how long ago this was. From Ohio Bell, come and rewire my house so I could have a phone up in my bedroom. And me and the boys, I slept in the boys' bedroom, and I had the phone there in case somebody had come in because I had all my locks changed and everything. But I was up in this house, and yeah, so I was told that by my pastor, and yeah, and yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yes. And that happened, and consequently my friend did leave, but
Yeah,
then she left everything that resembled
yeah,
that background, that
yeah.
religious background,
And I
including
get
me.
that too.
Including me. I
I
mean,
get it.
it's okay because I knew what she
Yeah.
was going through. I
Hmm.
hated that it happened, but it's what she needed to do for her, because I just didn't have the expertise as a young person to even begin to assist. So those are reasons that people will leave, will stay.
Hmm.
Another myth is that victims can just fight back or walk away.
Right.
Most abusers are physically stronger, so even if they do fight back, they're not going to win.
Never. Mm-mm.
I also want to put in there that there is a level of grooming for a lot of people before the physical even begins.
There is all grooming.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, there is, so that's what I said. There's a level of grooming there. And so, what you gonna do if your abuser is stronger and the grooming has taught you that nobody is going to say anything, nobody is going to help you? What are you gonna say?
Very strategic.
Yes, yes. Um, okay. Station identification. Tell me your name, Michael. Okay, Michael. Michael, I'm gonna give you my card. Okay.
Sweet. Perfect.
All right. Where are you from?
Idaho.
Okay.
Coeur d'Alene.
You guys enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you my card, Michael, and I'm going to give you guys a call, okay?
Excellent.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
I'm
right.
sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. Thank you. And that's a different business. I am a mental health therapist. I'm doing a live. That's a business card. That's not my mental health card, but my number is still the same on there. Okay? All right. You're
Your name
welcome.
is?
My name is Michelle.
Michelle. Thank
Yes,
you.
you're welcome. So, a gentleman just walked up to me. I got chills. He typed in his phone. My wife are going through this right now. We need help.
Yes.
And
Mm.
he's like, and he kept like putting his hand up for me not to stop. No, this is what this is about.
That's it.
This is what this is about.
This is enjoying the journey in spite of the circumstance. This is it. Like this is we rolling. This is what
He
we.
put it in a note on his phone, and then he put his number there. And let me just tell y'all this. First of all, when he walked up, his mask was down here. I'm in an isolated area, so I'm on vacation, people. I'm in an isolated area. And so when he walked up, his mask was down here, and I thought, okay, he's 6 feet away, but I'm gonna need him to get a little bit further, right? The more we talking about what we're talking about, I'm in a zone. You don't know what God is doing. This man typed this in his phone, set it on my notepad for me to read. When I stopped, he said, "Don't stop." No, that's what this is about.
Oh
And
my
had a
goodness.
number there.
Yes.
And I am going to reach back out to him. He gave me his phone number, where he's from, and we're gonna be talking again. That's
That's
what
so
this is
yummy.
about.
Yes.
That's what this is about. Because we need to help people, and people want help.
People want help.
This man
They
has been
want
sitting
help.
here almost the whole time. That means he heard the whole lie.
Yes.
He heard the whole, the part about, yeah, the abusers think they love you and the way they love you. He heard all of that while trying to pretend like he didn't hear it, but he heard it. He and his wife is. So this is why we do what we do, because we
Ah,
help people.
that's so good.
Yes,
That's so
absolutely.
good. That, and
Absolutely.
I remember during my domestic violence, and I made a call to the police after several calls, and I thought my abuser was outside terrorizing me. And I made a call to the police. I was in the suburbs, and they came to the door. Miss Davis, like, again, lady, ain't nobody in your backyard. And I thought I was losing my mind because
Mhm.
I thought my abuser was outside. And I remember sitting on the floor just crying because I thought, oh, maybe I'm losing my mind, right?
Mhm.
And I just bawled my eyes out. I cried and I took the scriptures and I was tearing the Bible up, just trying to find some kind of hope. And and I closed the Bible and I just started reciting what I knew about God and my journey. And one of the things that was said to me in that moment was, if I were me, the only person on this planet, Jesus would have still came and Jesus would have still died. And that God had me all to myself, by myself, like me. And I thought about that when that person there, you go all the way to where you're traveling to, because that's how eccentric
Yes.
God is, that
Yes.
would bring you to that space for that
Yes.
person to
Yes.
have the experience that they had.
Yes.
It's like it's just our lives line up like that over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Um, and all we just have to be is available and surrender to the
Absolutely.
cause. Like that
Absolutely.
is so beautiful to me, and I know that it's true. What's true for me is true for them too. That
Yeah.
you would, who would imagine I would go to, where you are and have somebody doing a talk on domestic violence and it meets a need. But that is,
Awesome.
yes, this universe. That is what's
Awesome.
happening every day, all day. If you just stay aware and awake and be in integrity. Because that
Yes.
person, whoever you talk to, had to tell the truth.
Yes.
And this is not
And
an
he
easy
didn't have
topic.
to me.
No, no.
But he's like, I'm just so sorry to be in your conversation. You're not in my conversation. I'm trying to help somebody. And if that's you,
Right.
God called you to this space
This is
right
your
here.
day. Ah, this
Yes.
is
So
your
I will be
day.
reaching out and we will give information on how, on what to do if you find yourself in this situation and how to reach us as we always do. So another myth is that the victim provoked the violence. All the responsibility, period, is on the abuser. Period. Period. All the responsibility is on the abuser.
If you ever
Yeah.
go to a domestic violence court, you see so many charming people there who was wilding out at their house before they came to court. And so that's one of the, if a judge was standing here, or if the police were standing here, or if the pastor was standing here, who would you be right now?
Right. And the last one that I wrote down was, it's a private matter. We better stop people. We say it. We watch it. We know it's happening. We tuck our heads in the sand. We don't offer help.
What
And
do we
that's
grow up with? That's what I'm talking
any
about,
abuse.
family of origin.
Secrets.
What go on in my
Secrets.
house, stay in my house.
Yeah. We grow up with secrets. So if what go on in my house, stay in my house. If you over there being abused, that's your household's business. Yes, absolutely. And under that, I put, we are all responsible for the next person. If you know, maybe you can't go and rescue that person from the house, but maybe you can slip a number. Like maybe you can, it's certain things that can be done. And maybe you can educate yourself if you don't know what to do.
Educate
Educate
yourself.
yourself.
Let persons know that your porch is available. If you,
Yes.
a safety plan is flashing, letting the person that you know that is in trouble, tell them, if you flash the light, I'll call the police.
Right.
If I see your light flashing, I know what I need to do.
Absolutely.
You just create a safety plan for the person so you don't get involved. The person doesn't have to be outed out. And when they're ready for the help, they know that they can come
Right.
there,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
in the no judgment zone,
exactly.
and the assistance that they need.
Yes. Um, you can help. This is how. Speak up. And Stephanie, please jump in there because, again, this is just from research for me. Speak, but you can tell people what you would have wanted or needed, right? Speak up. Know the signals of abuse, you know? And Stephanie talked about some of them, as far as children are concerned too. Listen and support. Maybe the person is not ready to do anything, but talk about it. That maybe that's the first step to just, I need somebody to reveal this to, that this is
Mm-hmm.
happening. Reassure them that they don't need to be shamed and they're not dumb or stupid or whatever for
Mm-hmm.
not making other choices, whatever the case may be. Support them,
Mm-hmm.
respect their decisions, even if you disagree.
Yeah. And that's so
You might
important.
be,
And
girl,
and
come
and
on, let's
don't make the
go.
assumption that everybody that's in a domestic violence connection is being beat up every day. Because my experience was maybe once every 2 years or once a year or something. It wasn't like every day, but when it happened, it was really bad. It was very bad. But it wasn't every day. There was bliss and wonderfulness and
And
connection and
that's what I was
building
gonna say.
businesses
Like the
and
other
building
2 months,
careers and yes, doing
you
all
know, the
kind of
2 months is
amazing
like,
things.
oh, okay, that's over. That's not gonna happen again.
Yeah, yeah. Because it was just so it's the time
Sporadic.
between when it happened and when it didn't happen was like so blissful, like for a long time, that when it happened, it was very, very, very bad, very explosive. I mean, because I ain't no punk. Let me just say that. So so most of women who are people who are in those relationships, they are fighting back,
Right.
physically fighting back, but mentally and emotionally, their hearts are tied up in the connection. And so know that. Don't make the assumption that this is happening every day. Don't make the assumption that it's some kind of environment where that person can't move or can't. I mean, that does happen. And narcissism and things like that, that does happen. But a majority of people, you had is one big tussle, and then you think, oh, that just happened one time. But if the person has the ability to put their hands on you and hurt you once,
They'll do it
then
again.
it will happen again. Now I know some of my friends are like, oh, not, I'm once an abuser, always an abuser. And some people be like, that's not true. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't say that. I don't know. I do not know. But all I know is that if it happens once, my professional advice is to kind of get yourself untangled from that connection and
The
find
first
something else to do
the first time.
the first
Because
time.
the longer you're in it, from what I understand and hear, the longer you're in it, the harder it is for you.
Right, because the rationale is, yeah, yeah. The
Yeah.
rationale is, I put my abuser in prison maybe 3, 4, 5 times, from misdemeanors to misdemeanors to felonies to almost every time. So whatever, if there's 6 times to move up to a felony, he was arrested 6 times, but I still was like, but that's my partner, that's my husband, and God said blah 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 blah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it happens. So I just want to dispel that myth that people think, well, they look fine, they look great together. They're doing everything together and have all these family plans and picnics and stuff like that. But that,
Right.
yeah, that's not the telltale sign. And then the person is not weak and docile. That's another myth.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a myth.
Right.
um,
Absolutely.
so just be mindful of the stereotypes
Right.
that we place on people in domestic violence, because it's not that way.
If a person does want to get out and you can help with an exit plan, and that's if
Yes.
they are willing, not on your when you feel like it should happen, when they are willing.
Mm-hmm.
Then help them with an exit plan if you know how. Hold abusers accountable, because that's the other.
Yes. Call a thing.
They're not being held accountable.
Ever, hardly.
Everybody, maybe people might see the abuse.
Y'all need to
and
get
know
it
that,
together.
yes. Who is y'all?
Y'all need to get it together.
Who in the hell are y'all? I'm not doing anything I'm not supposed to be doing. What do you mean?
Y'all need
But
to get it together.
yes, yes,
That's just like a punch in the face by the
it is.
rest of the world. It is.
Yes, and then volunteer your time, and at the very least, as Stephanie
Yes,
said,
please.
call 911.
Call
That's the very
911. Ask the person, let them know that, your secret is safe with me. I'm here to help you get to the next place.
absolutely.
Ask them about keeping a bag at your house if they want to ever leave. Educate yourself, like educate yourself. And yeah, and just kind of be a support to say to that person, when you're ready to go, I got you. I
Hmm.
got you. And just make sure um all people who are in those type of environments need to have a carry-on bag, like how you ready to go to have a
Hmm.
baby. They need to
Right.
have those kind of bags. And so encourage, if you know someone that's in that, if you don't want to talk about the abuse, then talk about, hey, let's get you a getaway bag for the day that you decide to get away,
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
create a getaway bag. You can find those on Google. DV
Yeah.
getaway bag. That is the number one thing that women or people who are escaping from domestic violence definitely need, because so many people show up with nothing, and these people have to get housed, and they don't have ID, they don't have anything. And so if you
And
can be a
Stephanie, do you
partnership,
have the 800 number?
I do. So it is 800-779-7233. 800-779-SAFE 7233. That used to be the number for Journey Home at the end, 7233.
Okay. And so I'm going to,
Oh,
I'm
nice.
there. So have a getaway bag. You need help,
Yeah.
call 1-800-779-7233. 1-800-779-SAFE.
But also, I didn't even think about it. Right?
This
Um,
was really good. This was
yeah,
really good. Yeah, this was really good.
I am glad that we decided to do this. This is God. Let me just tell you guys, this is God sent that we've done this, because I am in a place where there's music being played everywhere. There is not one single quiet place in this place. I called the desk at the hotel and I said, well, do you guys have a business center? The business center is closed. I am determined we are not canceling tonight. So I get up
No.
at 5:30, the time that I am in, which would be 7:30 Chicago time, and I start walking around the place. I call Stephanie. I gotta find a place to do this. And I found a place. God has said this is where you're going to be. So all day I'm praying like, oh Lord, don't let nobody else be in that.
Nobody sit in that spot. Me too.
Right? I need my spot. And I get down, I'm come an hour early. So I come down an hour early, nobody's in the spot. And then we do this live, and a man comes and he sits and he's
How
listening
sweet
and
it
not listening, but
is.
he's listening. This is God orchestrated. And I am so happy that we've decided to do this today. Hopefully we help somebody out there.
Oh
Um,
my goodness. I
please,
declare
please
we have.
share, and share some more. I'm going to share this in groups that I am in, but please share this information because somebody out there needs to hear this. Um, Stephanie, you have any parting words for us?
Um, no, just stay safe. Um, just be encouraged all the time. Um, don't, yeah, just be safe, be encouraged all the time. And that if somebody who is in a domestic violence right now, I just want to say that give your real you permission to step forth. Give your real you permission to move forward, and that you can do better than this. You're right. You can
Yes.
do better than this.
Yes, absolutely. I am Michelle Bird, a mental health therapist. You can find me on Psychology Today under Michelle Bird. You can email me, michelledbird@gmail.com. You can find me on Chicago Compass Counseling. Um, Instagram, Mrs. Bird LPC. I think I covered all the bases. And where can they find you, Steph?
Psychology Today, and right here on Facebook, Stephanie Stevens McCain. And that's it for now.
Okay. All right. So this has been wonderful. Thank you, friend, once again.
Yes, you are
Thank
welcome.
you.
I'm so honored and humbled. Like I'm just like
To be able to be
I'm
doing
buzzing
this
right now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. This
All
is
right.
amazing. This is the
This
beauty
was
of the pandemic. This is the
yes.
blessing of
So I
Corona.
hope that we answer questions because I did see a comment from a man saying how to stop wife from beating me. So I hope that we've answered your questions. You can find us in those places that we just said that you can find us. You can find me on Facebook as well, Michelle Wallace Bird. If you have any questions, but if you are in dire need,
Definitely
please
call the 1-800.
call the 1
Sure.
800 779 7233, 1 800 779 SAFE. All
I do
right.
want to say, do not seek couples counseling for domestic violence.
Yes.
Don't initially do that. That is not the initial approach to domestic violence, to seek counseling. But go if your partner is willing to go. But just be aware that it's very difficult to do. There is a theory that we can use, but that person has to be very transparent, integral, and ready to do some work.
And not just there to hear what you got to say and use it against you
Right.
later. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you guys for
All
tuning
right.
in.
Have fun.
In 2 weeks. All right.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.